So about 2 years ago, I posted a short film called The Initiation. It was the last short film I made before deciding to focus completely on music. At the time, I had many interests both in music and film, but I was going in circles trying to chase it all at once. Shortly after posting the movie, I decided I needed to focus on one thing at a time, and I chose to start with music. At that time, I didn't have very many subscribers, but once I started posting videos more frequently, my subscription rate increased. What's interesting is that over the years, The Initiation has gained more views and has become one of my most popular videos, even though most of my content is music related. I still plan to make more movies someday. Ever since I let it go, I've grown to love filmmaking even more. But right now, I'm really happy pursuing music. However, I am aware that some of you subscribe to me because of my short film, so I thought it'd be fun to make an analysis video and show you guys how I came up with the idea, how I was able to pull it off by myself, and what I learned from the experience. Hopefully, it'll help those of you that are making movies by yourself. So let's start with the idea. How do you come up with a cinematic story that you can tell with one actor and no crew? I've never really had a problem coming up with ideas, it's just that most of my ideas are too big to pull off, especially without help. My first solution was to dumb down my ideas until they were manageable. I'll tell you right now that's not the answer. The result was my short film Procrastination. Now, I'm actually quite proud of that movie, but at the time I wasn't psyched about it. The idea was to come up with a story that was simple enough for me and my friend LJ to pull off by ourselves. And the idea sounded clever on paper. A college student who keeps procrastinating, but shoot it like a suspense movie. However, when it actually came time to make the movie, it took a lot of work, and I soon realized that I just didn't care about the story. It wasn't the kind of movie I really wanted to make. Comedy isn't even my favorite genre. Action-adventure is. Whatever movie you decide to make, it's gonna take some work, so make sure you're making something that you want to make. Don't just make something because you can. I find that's not very fulfilling. I took a different approach when coming up with the idea for The Initiation. Instead of dumbing down the story, I decided to look at what tools I had available to me and write something around that. So I started with the hardest part first, a cinematic location. Well, since I live on a farm, I have a lot of open field available to me, and for the right story, it can look pretty cinematic. Now, I knew my story would only have one character, so I had to ask myself, what's this guy doing out in this field? I had a few other ideas before I came up with the idea of him being tied up. That led to the thought that this could be some kind of test or survival situation. And the more answers I came up with, the more questions were asked. Why is he tied up? Who did this to him? What are his goals? Etc. Once I had a solid concept, I set out to make it happen. And once again, I realized it was going to take some work. I was so close to not making this movie. But I watched an episode of Film Riot later that evening, and Ryan gave some pretty good advice. Anything you work on, no matter how great or insignificant, you can learn from it. So I decided I would make the movie, but I wasn't going to stress over it. I was just going to make everything as easy on myself as possible and just try to have fun. The result? I ended up having a great time and making what I think is currently my best short film. Procrastination was supposed to be a perfect movie, and because of that we had a stressful shoot and ended up with something that I just didn't care about. Whereas The Initiation was an easygoing shoot that ended up surpassing my expectations. Of course, if I hadn't made Procrastination, I might not have learned some of these valuable lessons. So what I'm trying to say is make sure you're working on ideas that you care about. You can and will still learn from less than stellar ideas, but I think you'll find more enjoyment in the process if you actually care about what you're working on. So hopefully that gives you guys a little bit of insight of what went into making this movie. In my next video, we're actually going to watch the video, and I'm going to pause it and talk about how I set those scenes up, how I came up with those ideas, and how I was able to pull it off by myself. So, until next time.